Well, hello everybody. This is Scott Roberts from Explore Scientific and Explore Alliance, and we're here at the 2022 ALCON event, Astronomical League convention here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm here with Scott Harrington. Now, Scott actually lives pretty close to me. We're in Northwest Arkansas. Not right now, we're in New Mexico right now, but Scott has been, I learned about Scott through Chuck Allen from the Astronomical League. Chuck has been on our Global Star Party. He's talked a lot about you. He's referred back to how you do amazing work with just a pair of binoculars. I find that to be, after learning about some of the really faint and hard to find deep sky objects, I was pretty amazed that you're doing all this with a pair of binoculars. How did you get into astronomy, Scott?
Well, my parents, they were always interested in it.
Okay, they forced you into it?
No, they tried. They tried their best when we were kids, but I didn't really have any interest in it. I didn't have the eyesight. I couldn't, when your dad's trying to point at something and he's got like a couple more kids standing around, it's like, who gets the line of sight where he's pointing? I never.
Oh yeah, just like
yeah.
It's right
the
there,
oldest child, oldest child's always next to him, Zachary, and so I didn't know what he was pointing at. And so at the end, I never really enjoed it. But he'd show us Mars, Saturn, and I enjoyed it. It never clicked. I just never.
So what was the tipping point? When did it all start to happen?
Well, he showed us Saturn when I was like 14, and all of a sudden I was like, I was interested all of a sudden, and I started reading, and I read this note in a book that said.
And how old were you at this time?
I'm 28. Yeah.
At that time.
At that time, it was 14.
14. Okay.
And I read a note that said that Venus rotates backwards in a book. I had never heard that before. I was just like, what? One of the planets is spinning the opposite direction. Why haven't I known this before? And so then my mom was like, hey, he's interested. And so then they started giving me some of their more advanced books. And then she checked one up from the library. That was a book by Philip Harrington, Edward Hazacuzzi, called Astronomy for All Ages.
Right.
And it's a simple book, but I enjoyed it. And it showed me that where some of the constellations, where some of the stars are. And then my mom was watching the weather one day, and the weatherman said that it's going to be a lunar eclipse. And so I set my alarm, and that's like the first time I ever set my alarm to get up at night for anything astronomy. Yeah, I got up at like 1 in the morning.
Okay.
And I saw this lunar eclipse. But I'd also known by looking at like my little Jack Horkheimer planisphere that the Orion Nebula and stuff that was in that book, it was going to be visible, but I'd have to get up a few hours later. So I did. I saw the eclipse, went back to bed, and got up about 5 o'clock. And there I saw Orion. And with my little binoculars, 7x35s, I was able to see the Orion Nebula. And that was just, it was just amazing, because what happened is when I took my binoculars down, I could still see it. I could still see that. And it was just awe-inspiring because, it's late summer, it's August, there's dark, the trees look dark at night, and the sky's bright, and so it's just sitting there, and I'm just standing there on my concrete pad outside my house, and I'm just thinking, why haven't I known this before? That is so bright, it's so visible. It's just... And ever since then, I've just been hooked. Binoculars, that connection is just fascinating.
So you love to use binoculars to observe the sky.
Yeah, it just gives me such a connection. So even when I see a difficult object in them, it still feels more real to me. It feels like I'm actually looking at it, because I'm getting so much more of the sky with it. When you use a telescope, you're so focused in on the thing, you kind of lose the fact that you're looking through our galaxy to see something like a galaxy. But here, I feel like I'm still... It's just more of a connection. It's hard to describe it, but it's just a real basics.
You're using both eyes, both.
Yeah.
Maybe both parts of your brain.
Yeah, your eyes are relaxed.
Yeah.
You're just. yeah, it's just so simple. It's like seeing a bird fly through the air, except all of a sudden you're watching a nebula slowly drift through the air. It's just kind of,
I see.
I don't know. It connects me to, because it's weird, but I don't consider that night sky anybody else's in some way. When I'm on my farm, that's my sky.
That's
Those
your
are my
sky.
woods. That's
It's
my
very
yard.
personal
It's
for you.
personal. It feels
Yeah.
like I own that. I don't
Yeah.
have to travel someplace to see all that. That is
Yeah.
mine.
Yeah.
So it's a
I
little
get
bit
it.
of a, I understand what's down here, and now I'm trying to understand what's up here. It's all part of my little zone.
Now, I've heard that you own several binoculars. You have access actually to some telescopes, including like 30-inch. Is that right?
36 inch.
36 inch.
Yeah, I just established a friendship with the guy over there
Right.
toward where you live,
Right,
closer.
Tuck Campbell,
Yeah.
right.
And it's not the greatest, nothing's perfect, but the fact that he lets me have it all night, and observe whatever I want. I mean, he's not, like I said, it's not the greatest. The other time I used it, it would track in right ascension.
Right.
Oh, it would track in declination. It would go up and down, but it wouldn't track side to side. So he said he apologized for that. So the whole night I was up there on the ladder, I was having to pull the telescope. And it's a heavy telescope. It weighs like 2 tons or something.
Oh, my
I'm having
God.
to pull this thing. I was looking, keep it in the field. It was just
You
fun.
get Popeye on
Oh,
you
yeah.
with that, right?
It was it's a story. I'll put it that way. But you do want to see what the look on my face when I found out that it wasn't working. I was like,
What?
I was grumpy, but I got to see the things I wanted to.
Sure.
So that's still worth it. Anytime somebody lets you have a 36 inch, even if you have to pull on it yourself, it's
Right.
still.
Right. You think of, like Lord Voss with his giant Leviathan.
That's what I started feeling like. I was like, I can see now how they
How
felt.
much work this was.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I like tracking telescopes, having a Schmidt-Cassegrain, the 10-inch. So I don't like the feeling of those Dobbs that don't track when the sky keeps drifting through there. It's kind of it's frustrating.
With binoculars,
Yeah,
you're not tracking. So
exactly.
What's the discount?
Well, because the binoculars, it's such a wide view. Yeah, wide field of view. Nothing actually really slides through in a sense because I'm hand holding them. If they were mounted, maybe I'd notice it, but because I'm just hand holding them, I'm moving around more than the sky is. So, yeah, I'm a baby. When you get used to the tracking telescopes,
Yeah.
non-tracking,
Oh, sure.
interesting.
I would agree with you.
It's a challenge.
Of course.
So.
We make tracking mounts, and I've used all kinds of different telescopes to be able to sit there and gaze at a deep sky object for 10 minutes or 20 minutes or however long you want to.
Without chasing it. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's my preferred way, especially because of how deep I go. With that 16-inch that I have now, the Explorer Scientific 16-inch, I'm using 600 on it all the time now. I'm just like 600. That's so much.
600.
Yeah, that's fun. I usually couldn't go above like 300 on my 10-inch, but 600 now is like that's.
Wow, that's a lot of magnification.
Well, I have good seeing, I guess, because I
You
don't
would
worry
have
about
to.
it.
You would have to. So you're out towards the mountain home region of
Yeah, I'm a little
Arkansas.
further east of there, but it's called the Ozark Foothills, and so it's
Ozark
still,
Foothills.
the Buffalo National River, one of the dark sky sites.
Yeah.
It's not too far away to my west, so I have some of that darkness.
So how dark would you say the skies are?
Well, on the Bortle scale, I'd say Bortle 3 on average, Bortle 2 on the best nights,
Okay.
but I guess I have a high sense of visual acuity, so it depends
Right.
on, if I got somebody else. My dad, he gets out there and he's like, I don't have my good glasses on, so he's like, I can't see it as well. So it's like, how would he rate it? I'm not sure.
I see.
So, but
Okay.
I've had a sky quality meter, and I've been finding out that it's darker in the spring. And my theory, darkened in spring versus winter, because I think the trees leaf out and they're black-ish at night. The yards all of a sudden green up, so they're absorbing more of the surrounding light pollution, and so that's my theory at the moment.
That's interesting.
Because I can't understand. I'm like, spring. Why is spring actually darker than winter?
Yeah.
But it's something to do with that. Because otherwise, in summer, I get that Gulf moisture, and it just the transparency drops. More
Way
light
down, I noticed
light
that.
is reflected off of particles, moisture, and dust, and it's like, yeah, summers aren't so fun.
Right. Yeah. Plus mosquitoes. Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But anyhow, well, let's move on and talk about the numbers of objects that you've seen with binoculars. What are your favorite pair of binoculars that you use? Your go-to pair of binoculars that you use?
Well, what happens is I exhaust binoculars. I saw everything possible in a pair of 7x35s.
7x35s.
Yeah, that was the first start out with.
All right, and how many objects did you find with 7x35?
Well, it was over 300 without doing.
300.
I didn't even do binocular open clusters. I just stuck to the dark nebulas, galaxies, bright nebulas, planetary nebulas, globular clusters, and then the naked eye open clusters. And so I kind of feel like I've exhausted those. Mm-hmm. So now I have a pair of 8x56. Ones my dad always wanted, so that's what I use.
Okay.
I'm close. I'm a year or two away from being done with them, in a sense, exhausting them. And now I've moved on to...
How many objects is that?
With the 8x56s, I'm not quite done, but I've seen... I can't remember what type it's like 22 planetary nebulas, but overall it's about another 200 or more objects. So you throw 300 and 200, you get like 500 plus, yeah.
Okay.
And so now I've got a pair of overworked 12x60s, and I'm trying to using them, and it's just it's amazing when you force yourself to stay small, and then when somebody does give you something better, you're like, wow. Really appreciate
much better.
Yeah. You're like, why was I even using those the whole time? And then I get 12x60s, I'm like, why was I using those the whole time?
Wait a minute. Okay, so we sell binoculars, and I've demonstrated how to use binoculars a lot. I have a technique of putting my palm along the bottom and my thumbs all the way back, almost to the eyepiece, curving around.
Okay.
And then pulling my elbows in to rest up against my chest to give myself some steadiness, because you have to look for a long time, right?
Yeah.
What's your technique?
Well, I used to do it in just a chair, and then I found that we had what's called a Chase Lounge chair. It's kind of like a chair you can lay back in.
Okay.
Yeah. And I wish you have to support your elbows. I have to support them, and so what I do is you don't want to see me at night, but I'm scrunched up in odd positions, trying to rest one elbow down. I'm trying to hold them as still as I can, and I tend to. The larger the binoculars, the more I have to shift my weight out toward the aperture, because that's where those heavy lenses are.
Yeah.
And so it kind of varies. The little guys, they're simple like you,
easy.
But when I get a little more, I have to hold them out. Balance, basically. I'm just trying to balance.
At the
they don't fall out of my hand.
balance point of the binoculars.
Yeah.
I see.
It's a trick. I don't know. Because I'm young, I imagine when I'm older, I'll be like,
You're not gonna do it?
I'm not going to be scratching up there.
Those things.
But I can hold them still enough where I can see my heartbeat. If I'm trying to split double stars, I'm trying I can hold my breath all I want, but I can't seem to stop my heart. I've tried.
I recommend you do not stop your heart.
I can't.
Even to get the best view of double star.
Yeah, I can't hold them steady enough. That's one complaint I have.
That's hilarious. Yeah. So your biggest binoculars are these 12x60s at this point.
Actually, I have a pair of 15x70s I got last fall.
Okay.
I shouldn't get them before I'm ready, because then I start
why
am I using those little ones?
Exactly.
Shoot,
You're shifting it.
Yeah, I know.
There is something to be said to squeezing every last drop out of your equipment, right?
Well, and actually what I found is the larger binoculars allow me to use the smaller ones. It's because I've had this fascination with minimum aperture sightings.
Yeah.
If I use the 8x56s to actually, I can see it. I pull up the 7x35s, I can just see it.
Still see it.
And so that's where I started logging. It was weird. I'd have an observation, but then a month or two later, I'd be able to see it in the little ones, and I was like, got to shift that one to the little guys then. And I was like, man, I just don't ever seem to make a list of 8x56 observations. I just keep moving down. Eventually, I exhausted that.
Right.
But the 12x60s, they help me with the 8x56s. So it's like using a larger telescope and then walking over and looking through a smaller telescope. And you're like, okay, I know what I'm looking for. I know what I'm looking at. I can still see it. It's just a fascination.
So, is there anything you found with the 12x60s that you did find with the 7x35s that you didn't think you could see before?
Find with the 12x60s, and then turn to the 7x35s.
Smallest binocular, or a smaller binocular.
Good question. Maybe. I don't know. There's a nebula in Cygnus. I see 13. Yeah, I see 13, 18. And it's one around the central star. I think it's Satyr is the central star. And I was able to see it in the 12x60s. And then I was able to see it in the 8x56s. And then I was able to see a small section of it in 7x35s. So that was weird, because that's several years after I thought I was done with 7x35s. And I was just like... And then you should see the view when you try and go from 12x60 to 7x35. You're just like, oh, Man, oh, it hurts. It hurts to know that I was using that. It feels weird. But yeah,
Okay.
I've had a few things like that, but it's very rare.
Yeah.
Very rare.
Well, that means that you're performing at the best of your ability, and but the other thing that's happening is that I think you're experiencing what a lot of amateur astronomers experience. It was the Hubble Space Telescope challenge, right? Especially with astrophotographers.
Mm-hmm.
Here you have people doing
Yeah.
the pillars of creation or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and so amateur astronomers knew what this region was, but then they went back and revisited it with small telescopes and better image processing,
Yeah.
better stacking and tracking and all the rest of it, and getting stuff where you go, okay, my picture and Hubble Space Telescope, and you're going, okay, Hubble's better still, but this is way better than I used to do, so.
Yeah, and that kind of the question is why do it? Well, why not do it?
Why not do
It's
it?
kind of like it's kind of a challenge, and you kind of
Well,
there's
it's still all this personal discovery and exploration you're doing, so.
yeah. So yeah, that's a good way to look at it. And I'm an information hound, and it's tough to find information on some of these binocular objects because most people think they're telescopes. So it's kind of a murky area out there. That's why I'm slow to make some observations because I was like, well, I didn't even know about that nebula until a few months before. So nobody talks about it. Everyone says, well, you have to have a filter. I don't use filters with binoculars, so yeah, it's kind of a combination. So I'm hoping by making these observations with binoculars and then trying to publish them in some free format or in an article or something, that people will feel like, well, okay, I can't see that in binoculars, but maybe you can see it in my telescope. Because some of these are kind of obscure, and I don't know why they are obscure. They just are. So
Right.
that's one thing I'm trying to do is present.
It's cool that you're trying to find stuff that's kind of off the beaten path a little bit, so.
Yeah, it's a challenge. It's
Right.
a challenge. Like I said, I'm an information hound. I'm always reading books, trying to find anything.
And are you recording? Do you keep a diary or something of all your observations? Or how do you know that you've observed this many objects?
Well, yeah, I don't keep as detailed recordings as some people. Like you're supposed to for the Astronomical League requirements, like for their awards. I don't
sure.
do that, but I do make sure at the end of every night or at the next day to go into a Word document and try and enter it in. What I saw, what I rated
Okay,
it.
so you are recording.
I am. I've asked people, do you record your observations? And they're like, how many times have you seen that object? They can tell me. I can't tell you how many times I've seen an object, but I can tell you the minimum aperture I've seen it in. I do keep a log, basically all of that. So I just have like catalogs and catalogs on either paper or on the computer. And so then I can assemble them. So I may not be able to write a book one day and describe everything about the object, but I can at least give you one thing, one data point.
But you are writing. You've written some articles for Sky Telescope Magazine, right? You've had a couple of featured articles, I think, in the May issues, whether 20...
21 and 22.
All right.
Both May.
Wow.
So,
That's cool.
yeah, I'm excited
Both
that they...
binocular...
Well, the first one was telescope.
Okay.
Nothing more than my 10-inch. And then
Okay.
the second one this year was just pure binoculars. 8x56 and 12x60.
Okay.
And so, because of my skies, I can go fainter than some people can. So I try and keep my instruments small so they don't feel overwhelmed. Because I can see stuff with a 10-inch that would challenge people with a 16-inch.
Sure.
So I have to be careful not to, do observations with a 20-inch, and then people are like, I can't even see that because nobody owns hardly a 30-inch. So
Right.
I don't want to harm anybody.
A bunch of people. So, what tips would you give somebody to see fainter? Now, I can tell you my experience, and I'll tell you my experience later after you tell your experience.
Okay.
Just you first, okay?
Okay. Well,
But how did you teach yourself to see faint?
Well, don't look at the sun and let your eyes I use sunglasses a lot.
Okay.
I've tried to do
So
that.
you protect your eyes.
Yeah, I wear my dad's always wants to wear a baseball cap. And so for my entire life I basically had a baseball cap on my head when I'm outside. Then a couple years ago I started wearing sunglasses because I'm light, I have blue eyes, and I'm more sensitive to the sun. But I find being rested, it helps if you can take a nap. I don't do well at night being tired because I'm trying to be like an Olympic athlete during the wrong time of day. I'm trying to be at night when I'm trying to be fully wide awake, ready to do this. If
Yeah.
I'm tired, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I have to. Helps if your diet is good. I'm not huge on taking all kinds of vitamins, but as long as I have a healthy diet, I don't drink a lot of caffeine. I'm not sure if that affects me in a good way or a bad way, but I just stay away from it. So,
Sure.
yeah, and another thing is having a list of objects to look at before I go out and a map. I'm more efficient with my time. I'm glad I have trees because trees block the light pollution, even like yard lights, I think. So
Sure.
I can get into a spot in my place where there's a bunch of trees, and so then all I have is the sky above me, like the darkest part.
Okay.
So just little things like that. Your eyes are going to be individual,
I see.
and so I'm not sure if I'm gifted or I'm just taking advantage of good skies.
I would say that you're using techniques a lot of people don't even use. So,
Yeah,
I mean, there's people, I've been to start parties, people are drinking alcohol, which I know is a no-no for, because that does harm your night vision, right?
Yeah. It impairs my mental faculties too.
And, well, that too.
I'm not that smart
So
to begin with. I need as much as I can hold on to. So yeah, that's
Sure.
It's just something about you have to be really tenacious. I make it a job almost.
Yeah.
I don't just treat it as like I'm just gonna go out there and turn off my brain or something. I go out there like I'm going out there. I'm forceful. I get my sleep and I'm ready to do this. Just like go on out. So it just depends. You have to just be determined, and you'll see more. I found that. It took me years. I'd see something. I'd be like, man, that was tough. A couple years later, I'd go back and look at it. I was like, man, that wasn't so hard.
Yeah.
What changed?
Your
My
skills.
skies didn't get any darker. They got brighter, most likely.
Right.
My eye exit pupil didn't get any larger. It got smaller, most likely. What happened? It's just my ability to see the things. And I found that there's almost three levels of observing. There's naked eye observing,
Sure.
and it is its own challenge. It is different than binocular observing. Binocular observing is different than telescope observing. I can't exactly explain why, but each one takes a different skill. And I meet very few people that can do all three. There's just something about it. I don't know what it is. It's something about that lower magnification in the binoculars or no magnification with naked eye that is a challenge.
I see.
So you may not be, some people may be good at naked eye but not good at binoculars.
Right.
Or they may be good at binoculars but not good at naked eye, or vice versa, or for a telescope. So I'm not upset if anybody can't see something in binoculars, because
Sure.
it is an acquired skill, and most people would rather spend time with the telescope, and I don't blame them. I spend a lot of
Well,
time.
maybe that's where that was their introduction. That was their doorway into astronomy.
It's a great doorway.
Yeah.
I'm not making any discoveries with them or anything, binoculars, but they're personal discoveries, if
Right.
you want to say that way.
Well, one thing I will say about binoculars is that they are totally accessible. You can take them anywhere, use them at a moment's notice. There's no electronics to break. There's nothing.
They're right view.
No setup.
They're the correct image orientation, so you don't have any trouble like mirror flip or anything. And like you said, they're small enough you can just hold them up, see what you want to look at, and hold them up.
Right.
And so yeah, they're simple, but that simplicity is actually what makes them special.
When I was taught, I was actually taught by a guy named Steve Edberg. He took me to a mountaintop. He wanted to test some eyepieces that I was selling at the time. This is back in the 1980s, late 1980s.
Okay.
And this is after Halley's Comet. Okay.
Okay.
He has an incredible gifted ability to see faint. He was one of the first humans to see Halley's Comet on its inbound. Okay. So, and he and another guy had reported their findings and stuff. And he said, at the time, he was at JPL Sciences, so he knew how to do all the correct reporting. So he teaches me, and he has me start off first by looking at just the Ring Nebula.
Okay.
We're using an 8-inch telescope, and we're using different eyepieces to see what the level of contrast is like. Because that slight level break in contrast can really help you to see to the faintest observable limit, okay, through a telescope. If you read the specs on telescopes, then maybe an 8-inch is like, I don't know, 12th or 13th magnitude.
Yeah,
right?
They're usually pretty conservative.
That's a very conservative number because we're looking at 15, 15.5, that kind of stuff. So it was more about relaxing, I would say being alert, but rested, and then he had me draw stuff, okay, without looking away from the eyepiece. Just draw, okay. Of course, the drawing looks horrible.
I was going to say, that's...
Right, like, what's that, you know? But actually,
okay.
I was able to see like 15.5, not quite 16 magnitude stars and stuff like that. So I was able to get fainter and fainter.
Okay.
And then they taught me how to observe comets. That one night, I need to go back and figure out what the date was, but we saw 11 comets in one night. Okay, there were a lot of comets out of that.
It must have been, because
But really faint ones, you know, so really faint ones. So that was part of it. He was training me how to see really faint. Then there was another guy there, this comet expert, and gosh, he was going down this list of comets, and I was blown away because I was going, you know, after seeing Halley's Comet, I was going, well, maybe there's one or maybe if you're lucky, two comets up in the sky. But usually there's several comets out, you know. And what's your experience with looking at comets through binoculars?
I find I really enjoy looking at them in binoculars.
It's the best, I think.
Yes, especially the bigger, brighter ones. There's nothing like them. I tried to see Comet Neowise from 2 years ago in like my 10-inch. It just didn't do it justice. With the binoculars, I could see 11 degrees of tail. In the telescope, I can only have a 1 degree field. It's like I don't really bring it all in. It's like trying to look at a painting, only one little area at a time. You don't really experience the whole thing. So binoculars, that's a fan. I'm a fan of using them to hunt for comets, just because it feels like then they're in the solar system. It feels like something like, okay, this is, I like that.
That's very cool. You're here at the Astronomical League convention. You gave a talk on binocular observing.
Yeah.
Primarily, what was the main thrust of the talk?
Well, that you can use binoculars as a beginner, and you can continue with them and become what I would consider like an expert using binoculars.
Oh, yeah, wow.
Or you can just use them for a short while, and then you can just go ahead and use your telescope.
Yeah.
But I want people to remember the binoculars are there, and they are the best tool to start out with.
So you should have a pair of binoculars as an astronomer, right?
Oh yeah, and if I want to see something in a telescope, a lot of times I'll use my binoculars to scope out the star field just a little bit to give myself a quick, okay, I know what I'm going for. Because the telescope's a bit of work to use. The bigger your telescope, the more you need something like a pair of binoculars. Right. So they're just a good introduction. They don't stress your eyes out, you know, unless they're out of collimation. They should. You have relaxed view. So I was just trying to remind people what you can see, and that it's more about your observing mentality, less about what you see, because binoculars will rarely ever give you the best view of anything. But what they will do is give you a view of things that you might not have thought were visible. That you don't have to have a telescope. I'm not saying a telescope wouldn't make it look better, but the fact that I can see it by holding something up in my hand, up to my eye, just for like 5 seconds or something, there it is.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's what I do to see a deer at the back of a field, you know, or a bird. It's just the same way. It's like, boom, it's there. So there's a connection I get, and I want maybe hope that other people will get that connection too. They'll find binoculars just are natural. There's just something that people hundreds of years ago did not have, you know. So just staring at the moon is just spooky to look at in binoculars. It's just like, wow.
Well, the first binoculars were invented about just right after the telescope was, okay? But they were big, long.
Yeah.
They're basically two telescopes mounted together, and they still are two telescopes mounted together, but they're nowhere near the form factor that we use. When you think of binoculars now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. The quality, the way they don't, how rugged they are nowadays is really nice.
Yeah.
So there's two types of binoculars: the roof prism and poral prism designs. I just wanted to break down that the roof prisms are good. They're just expensive. That's all. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with them. They're like these refractors. They're really high quality, but they don't get very big for certain limitations, like your distance of your eyes.
Sure.
But so the poral prism, that's what I'm used to using. But I can't knock roof prism. I like roof prism. There's nothing wrong with them.
Is it because they're smaller, easier to hold?
They're more compact, and they don't get knocked out of collimation. Hunters use them a lot because
I see.
they need something to give them the most magnification, the most aperture. Yet they have to be light and they can't get knocked around. They can't carry a big pair of binoculars with them to the field. No, they're hunting. If they're on foot hunting an elk or something, they want those small binoculars. And so I like them, but I guess I'm kind of poor at heart. Something about the way they fit into my hand, the polar prism, they allow me to spread my elbows. Is what it is. Roof prism make me do what you're observing, and I don't know. It doesn't work
One
well.
thing I can tell you about polar prisms too is that because the light path is actually wider than your eyes are, you are getting more of a 3D type of view, and that's one of the things I love about binoculars, because bright stars look closer to you versus faint stars. So I get immersed into binocular.
I've actually never thought of that. That is interesting. I'll have to test that the larger binoculars maybe bring in light from further apart then.
Further apart, so your brain, as you combine the image. Okay.
That may explain why I've always enjoyed the 8x56s over the 7x35s. There's a 3D effect that even the 7x35s couldn't quite do.
I see.
Wow. Okay, that's an interesting point. I'll have to remember that.
Because since you're so close to Explore Scientific, I'll let you borrow different binoculars, and you can tell me which ones are the best for astronomy. So let's talk a little bit about ALCON. Is this your first ALCON that you've been to?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think?
It's been fun. I'm really surprised how friendly everybody is. I mean, I expected to meet some of the other presenters. I mean, even the main presenter, one of him, Harrington Schmidt, last night, he was one of the last people in the building. I was like, man, I don't even think I'm that friendly. Man, some of these people are just friendly as can be. I mean,
it's a great community.
It's insane. Yeah. I mean, none of us, even the ones that are like professionals, they're the ones that are here. There's a reason they're here because they enjoy the amateur part of it. Right. So I haven't found anybody that wouldn't just give me a bunch of time to let me talk to them. It's been exciting.
Oh, that's good. That's great.
So yeah, it's been a fun experience. You
think you might come back to another ALCON?
I'd like to. This has been exciting. Would I be a presenter? Maybe.
Maybe. Maybe you have a new book or something. So that's great. You have written 2 articles for Sky and Telescope. Do you plan to do more, or?
Yeah, as long as they'll keep accepting me, I'm hoping to write for them as long as I'm alive, because they let me write with my style, and so I'm just excited. I've got an article coming out this December, and I've got a couple articles coming out next year, and I have to be careful not to put the cart before the horse, because I have to make the observations and kind of know what I'm going to write before I do it. If I get clouded out for 3 months,
which can happen in Arkansas.
It can happen, yeah. I have to be careful. So it's a challenge not to overwhelm myself with. So I keep it small. I'm only trying to do 2 articles a year.
I see.
But
and do you travel? Have you traveled to do astronomy?
No.
All Arkansas.
Same spot, basically in my
farm.
Yard. Everything's the same. So when I make observations, it's kind of unique that way. It's like I'm not like, well, I've seen Omega Centauri from Australia or Chile. No, it's like, no, I've only seen it right across my horizon. Same time, it's just nothing special. But that's fascinating to me to stay in one spot. Yeah. It's almost disorientating to me to get up to a different spot, because trees are different, or there's no trees. It's a flat horizon. It's kind of like when I get up to I've observed once or twice where it was up high and flat. Yeah. It's a little I feel a little exposed.
Do you?
Yeah, I feel like if the UFO flies over and tries to beam me up, I got no place to hide. It's a little stranger. I don't know why.
They're UAPs now, so
unidentified aerial phenomena. Okay. Yeah, the UAPs. I'm just like,
I don't know if they do a lot of abductions, so I have no idea.
I don't know. I just always feel a little safer when I got all my trees around and a dog,
Sure. Well, that's great. Well, thank you for spending some time with us.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Congratulations on your articles and for your talk here. I know they got a lot out of it. So, and you're a very friendly guy, and I hope that you stop in at our Springdale. We have a showroom. I'll show you the guts of Explore Scientific, and hope to interact with you more.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to get over there twice a year to Tut Campbell's place, so I'll just have to make a little longer jaunt over there and visit you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks again.
Take care. Yep.